So we will now link up now with Eshoma Moimodu and Tijesu Adeoye in our Abuja studio for FCT Brief. Good morning, Abuja. How is it going over there this morning?
Good morning, Ria, and good morning, Lagos. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning here in the city of Abuja, and we are ready to give you all that we have packed for you.
Yeah, good morning, Riyadh, and good morning, colleagues out there in Lagos. And I know we're going to have Quam 3 this time around. I think we've come to stay with what we have. And we need to dig.
I don't hope for
we're not going to have
like
a time for Quam 3.
Well, I've seen some statements from several quarters promising action. You know, FAN has come out to say they will carry out investigation, the IGP as well, and also the Senate Committee on Aviation has also come out to say that is going to investigate the matter. I truly hope that action is taken. It's just not lip service, because, you know, these situations that are happening, or they do happen, although some have not blown up like this, but since, this has come to the fore, I believe that, you know, proper investigations that will bring the necessary actions, you know, needs to be taken on this matter and, you know, put a stop to it. Because if a passenger is found wanting, irrespective of your status, you should be found culpable and probably punished. Not too harsh, by the way. And also for the airline operators as well, they need to show respect for passengers. Their crew members need to be respectful, irrespective of, you know, whatever airline or whatever. Exactly. You should, the interest of your customers should be put first, and you should make them feel comfortable. As long as, you know, they are on you owe them that service because they paid for it. Yeah,
I quite agree with you, because even yesterday we talked about the fact that at every airport you have a police command, and it is the responsibility of the police to police the airport. So if there is an errant passenger, it is not the airline that should take action. You call the police and let the police sweep in. So it's good enough that the IGP is asking that, look, let's thoroughly investigate the Quam 1 case. Beyond that, also investigate this case of Comfort, and so that we understand what actually happened before the video we saw out there, so that justice will be done, and also the law of equity will find its place. And beyond that, also, I think the airline operators, NCAA, FCAA, have a responsibility to ensure that this leads to a different conversation, the conversation that the rights of passengers are respected. Oftentimes we have cases where flights are cancelled. We've never seen airline operators issue statement. We've never seen NCAA issue statement. We've never seen FCA issue statement. Now they must tell us what are the rights of citizens. And what sanction will be apportioned to any airline that cancels flights.
Compensation.
Exactly. Because I have a business and you have disrupted my business and nobody cares about it. Now you must care. You have started showing concern, and we must go beyond that to show real concern.
Well, it must change from henceforth. Well, let's move into what we have for you for today. Good morning and you're welcome to FCT Brief. With heavy rains sweeping across parts of the country, flood alerts are prompting urgent calls for smarter waste management solutions. Experts warn that blocked drainage systems, often caused by indiscriminate dumping of refuse, remain a key factor worsening urban flood. From the bustling cities of Lagos to the low-lying neighborhood of Niger and the federal capital city, the rainy season has once again exposed a critical weakness in our city's waste management. Environmental agencies say more than 60% of flood-related disruptions in urban areas could be prevented if drainage channels remain free of plastic and other debris.
The government is now urging communities to adopt smarter waste disposal methods, including segregating recyclable materials, community-led cleanup drives, and embracing technologies like sensor-equipped waste bins that alert sanitation teams when full. Beyond technology, grassroots participation is proving just as important. In part of Port Harcourt, volunteer groups are partnering with recycling firms to clear waterways, turning collected waste into useful products while preventing environmental hazards. Officials say advancing smarter waste management is not just an environmental duty, but a life-saving strategy in the fight against flooding. The message now is keep the drains clear, keep the floodwaters away. Evelyn Ugbe is a climate change advocate, and she is here with us in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right. Now, let's start this way. how do we effectively manage our waste? Because it's one critical factor that keeps leading to flooding, despite the perennial advice and alerts from NIMET and other government agencies. How should we manage our refuse?
Thank you for featuring me on this program this morning to discuss this very critical and important issue. So the issue of waste management is not just a one-pronged approach. There needs to be commitment and collaboration from the government, from the communities, as you rightly mentioned in your introduction of the efforts in Port Harcourt and Lagos State, and as well as commitment and support from organizations like non-profit organizations like the CSOs to also work collaboratively and connectively to tackle the issue of waste management. Now we start with first we'll highlight the issue of regulation and compliance. For example, constructions, projects are not even, most times, not constructed with proper waste management plans. That means NOSRA, the government agency responsible for environmental regulation, has the first responsibility to ensure compliance with effective waste management channels within all sorts of projects, be it roads, be it estate constructions, be it any public construction. Then the second responsibility is again with the government agents, particularly in Abuja. The Abuja Environmental Protection Agency is one of those key agencies responsible for regulating waste collection in and around Abuja. But if you move around Abuja, there's a lot of indiscriminate waste dumping, particularly within the satellite towns. Jikwe Road, the roads, the good projects that the current minister is constructing, the good roads we have everywhere. By the side, dump sites those roads have become dump sites. And typically, where do all these dumps end up in? They end up in our waterways. Go to Jabi Lake. Take a look at Jabi Lake. There's a lot of waste dumping on Jabi Lake. And when the floods happen, when the rainy season starts, particularly now at its peak, where do all of these debris go to? They go to the waterways. And when you block the waterways, what will happen? Water will definitely try to find its way out, and it leads to what? Flooding. So there have been early warning from NIMET. There needs to be inter-agency collaboration between NIMET, between the communities, because the communities also have a role to play in terms of ensuring stewardship, particularly community leaders, in terms of ensuring the leadership and community compliance to ensure that waste is dumped in the right place. Whilst in FCT, I acknowledge that there are formal waste dumping sites. I think there's one in Gosa, and I hear there's one in Gwarimpa and Guzape. Exactly sure. But then the issue is that there is no proper regulation of how waste is dumped. Most of the responsibility lies with informal waste collectors, and they are not properly regulated.
Now you've raised the issue of regulation. However, some Nigerians have seen an opportunity in this waste management issue.
Yes.
We've seen a lot of creativity, some Nigerians turning waste to wealth. But these are isolated cases. This has not become a national culture yet, where you see the government buying into this idea and, converting our waste to wealth and, things like furniture and art and all of that. Why hasn't this waste to wealth mentality become a mainstream idea?
As you rightly said, again, government needs to take leadership in terms of creating and enabling the environment, in terms of policies for such businesses to thrive. I acknowledge that organizations like Ecobata are into the business of collecting, they are social enterprises into the business of collecting plastic waste for processing. They collect huge tons of waste in and around Nigeria. I know particularly Abuja, Nasarawa State, and they're extending to other states. And there are pockets of organizations working on converting particularly plastic waste to wealth. But yes, there needs to be that enabling environment, that business, culture around waste management, having business entities prioritize, for instance, a SMIDAN can prioritize support for business that are related to waste management. That way, you encourage more young people and more entrepreneurs to go into the business of waste management. It will interest you to know that the business of waste management is worth about $250 billion, and it is completely untapped in terms of formal waste collection, informal waste collection, and recycling. These are areas private sector can tap into, but with the commitment and some sort of policy and some sort of prioritization, particularly there's an MSME policy. What can be done with that is to also prioritize issues of environment and waste management as business opportunities that private sector can, tap into.
Okay, one of the most successful cases in Nigeria, I think, was in Lagos State, when I think this president, when he was governor, he created an agency. And before then, you had a refuse taken over a lot of streets in Lagos. And from time, government procured vehicles and make sure that they went around to evacuate refuse from various homes, and also partnered with also these informal waste disposal guys. And it became an effective story. Now, why is it difficult for such to be replicated across states? Because we keep talking about refuse. Now, if the vehicles, government vehicles, do not go to the interiors, into homes, into communities to evacuate, the people will definitely dump their refuse somewhere, and they might dump it where it's not good enough. Now, if nobody is monitoring and supervising the informal guys, definitely they will dump it somewhere. So how can we make it an effective national story so that it's not just about one state or two states or three states?
Okay, so in terms of what government is there today is to put in place those policies and ensure compliance. But then there's also the issue of coordination. For example, in the FCT, there's the Abuja Environmental Protection Agency, but then how it coordinates with the other local area councils there's a huge gap there. So there needs to be better coordination between the existing agencies, the informal waste collectors, particularly at the local level. In some states, there are not even formal agencies that are in charge of waste collection. It's just subsumed under maybe Ministry of Environment, but the particular agencies that sees to proper waste collection are not even there. So there's also the issue of legislation and laws to put in place these agencies, particularly at the state level. In Benue State currently, there's no official dump site for waste management in Benue State. This has been a long-term advocacy issue. Of course, there are private sector entities that are doing this in bits and pieces, but then there needs to be a better prioritization of waste management.
All right, I'll need you to hold your thoughts because we need to take a quick commercial break now. Don't go anywhere. We still have more for you on the program. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're glad to have you back. This is still FCT Brief, and we're still discussing effective waste management systems. Well, Nigeria generates all kinds of waste. We're talking domestic waste, industrial waste, medical waste, and even electronic waste. And this is yet to be effectively, managed. If this does not change soonest, we're not just talking about, dirty streets anymore, or litters, or, clogged drainages and all. Now we're going to be talking about toxic air. We're going to be talking about, poisoned water and all of that. How close are we to that tipping point?
I mean, we are very close. You've mentioned all of these issues. Beyond the solid waste collection, there's also the issue of e-waste collection, where the electronic waste collection will have all the computer villages within different states and locations in Nigeria. But all of those waste, where does it really end up to? It ends up again in our waterways. Now you hear of the issue of cholera killing Nigerians, particularly Nigerian children, all over the states. This is not unconnected with proper waste management. So we are getting to that level where it becomes another humanitarian crisis, if not, taken very seriously. We have the issue of cholera, we have the issue of water contamination, we have huge public health issues. We also, if you look at when we even move beyond the solid waste, you look at in the Niger Delta, there's also the issue of huge pollution that is even linked to birth deformation and crisis. So there's also a maternal health crisis linked to all of this. And again, there's the issue of huge unemployment in Nigeria, and there's a sector that has the capacity of reeling out jobs with the $250 billion anticipated income, untapped income for this sector. If all of these issues are not put into planning, into policy implementation, into regulation, into programming across all sectors, as I mentioned earlier, it can't just be government, it has to be collective. Both government, both private sector, both individuals and communities coming together to address this crisis. At the top of it, or the tipping point, is the already existing public health crisis, in addition to our conflict management issues. All of this put together, when it comes together, it's going to be catastrophic.
Now, let's look at the costs of flooding on a community, on a nation, and the cost of ensuring that refuse is effectively managed, evacuated, and managed. Now, how do we get the people? Because oftentimes we say there is waste to wealth. How can the people participate in all this? How can government set the necessary templates? Vis-a-vis, you understand that if it's not done, it will cost us so much in flood devastation. And so help us understand the cost benefits. Which one is more effective? Is it for us to neglect it and keep spending money to manage flooding? Or if we deal with this aspect, the people can be empowered and also we can reduce the cost of the destruction?
I mean, you said it all, and the answer is very clear. There's no other option. The issue of waste collection, proper waste management has to be a top priority of governance. For example, there are the SDG goals and the Sustainable Development Goals expiring in 2030, and we are just how many years to 2030? So what progress would Nigeria have made in achieving, these SDG goals? We have to put in place, like I said, policies. For example, we have a policy prioritizing entrepreneurship. There's small and medium scale enterprise agency. There is Bank of Industry. There are all those financial funding mechanisms. If the issue of waste management is, prioritized, you'll see more young people that are already, because there are pockets that we can't say there's a zero baseline. No, there are entities, organizations working on these issues. But if the government prioritizes in terms of making financial instruments available for the funding, there used to be NISAR. Was nicer, the same way agriculture was prioritized. And we could see a boom in agriculture, local production of foodstuff, rice, and all of that. That can also trickle down to waste management. Once there's a government direction, there are funding instruments, more young people particularly, because of course Nigeria is still a developing nation, meaning there is more we can contribute. So if all of these instruments are put in place to create that enabling environment, we'll see more private sector entities, particularly young people, take up the business of proper waste management.
Well, greenhouse gases from waste and other pollutions are also heating up our planet and damaging the ozone layer. The question now is, can we realistically roll back the damage, or are we just buying time?
Yeah, I would also say in terms of curtailing greenhouse gas emission, Nigeria has a commitment, nationally determined.
All right, I would like you to hold that thought. We'll come back to that question, but that will be right after this short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back shortly.
We don't like to eat better, more nutritious meals, more veggies, but we want it tasty and easy too. Knorr Cubes, that's the secret. Made with real ingredients like chicken, parsley, and garlic. And enriched with iron, so your meals are better for you and more delicious too. That's the cocoa. Let's give it some accolades. Change your world by changing what's on your plate.
Our major currency unit is the Naira, while the minor unit is the Kobo. They are both in notes and coins. The Naira is more than just a medium of exchange. It bears the images of our heroes. So, stop abusing the Naira. It is a criminal offense to spray the Naira at events. Stop stepping on the Naira. It's not your enemy. Do not squeeze, ruffle, or write on the Naira. Handling the Naira with dirty or oily hands can deface the Naira. Love the Naira as you love yourself. Be a real Nigerian.
This message was brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Chef. Mr. Chef, what's your secret?
My secret is the wide range of seasoning powders from Mr. Chef. Perfect for meals such as spicy stew, goat meat, roasted beef, fried rice, and coca.
Unleash your inner chef and explore our wide range of Mr. Chef seasoning powder.
You're welcome back. This is FCT Brief, and we're still discussing waste management. And with us in the studio is Evelyn Ugbe, and she's helping us, put some perspective into this matter. Now, just before we went on the break, we were talking about greenhouse gas emissions and how it's affecting our ozone layer. Are we effectively responding to these threats, or we are just buying time?
So in terms of efforts, I acknowledge that the Nigerian government has made significant efforts in responding to this issue. So at the global level, there has been a commitment during the Conference of Parties in Paris, which countries committed to reducing emission, which is called the nationally determined contribution. And Nigeria has made certain commitments to reduce emissions 47% conditionally, and the rest percentage unconditionally, meaning the Nigerian government will make efforts, the 23%, to cut emission by 23%. And one of those critical areas Nigeria is seeking to cut emission is around waste management, using the circular model and ensuring more entities get into recycling waste. Because if you look at the data, it says about 420,000 metric tons, 20 billion metric tons of waste are released in Nigeria annually. So it means by 2030, it is going to be more with the population and with the level of effort. Of course, we know the government is making efforts, but measuring with the population, measuring with the level of businesses, level of industrialization, there needs to be more in terms of expansion. So yes, in terms of reducing emission, there have been efforts. There's the Climate Change Act. There's the National Climate Change Commission. All these agencies are put in place, and with the support of development partners. But like I said, there needs to be more, particularly bringing the business model into it, putting in specific financial instruments to create that enabling environment for more entrepreneurs to go into the business of waste management.
Okay. What is your thoughts on policies of governments in talking about producing non-degradable materials? For instance, we have sachet water now, you have sachet beverages, you have sachet alcoholic drinks. Probably we're going to be having sachet foodstuff very soon. And all these things end up in the drain. Outside the country, there are countries you go to, they don't even, at their mall, shopping mall, they don't give you bags. You have to buy, and the bags you buy are the biodegradable. So can we have a national policy that will ensure that from our malls, nobody is given non-degradable materials to convey? If you have to buy stuff, bring yours to convey so that we can erase these non-degradable materials.
And a quick follow-up to that, because I would like you to expand more on this $250 billion untapped income that you spoke about. Is any agency approaching government already to make them understand that this is what we are missing out on? Are there agencies that have approached the National Assembly, to also institutionalize a sector like this to ensure that, this revenue is being tapped effectively? Okay. So you can just take both questions.
Okay, so I will take on the question of biodegradable, non-biodegradable waste. So there have been calls to ban plastic, the use of plastic bags in Nigeria. But then again, there's the politics to it. The plastic bag market is a whole business, and there are, mafias, businesses responsible for plastic production, plastic bag production. I know in advanced countries, even in our neighbors in Kenya, there's a tariff on plastic. So what people do on plastic bags, so when people go to malls, they try to do a reuse kind of practice, so that you don't have to pay extra for an extra plastic bag. These are some of the incentive, some of the policies that are coming to holistically or gradually phase out the use of plastic bags. Yes, there's sachet water and all of that, but then again, it also boils down to regulation. I know at the National Assembly, there have been calls to put in place a regulation that completely bans the use of plastic. But looking at society and how it is so dependent on plastic bags, we can start with a policy to phase out plastic bags and reduce single use, because you go to households and find plastic bags all over. It's even habitual. Even when you buy a small piece of item, Nigerians are insisting on a plastic bag. So if there's a policy, for example, we can say the current administration has been using tariffs to, achieve a lot. This can also happen in the area of use of non-biodegradable materials like plastic. Additional tariff on plastic will also reduce single use of plastic, gradually phase out completely the use of non-biodegradable materials like plastic bags. Then to your second question, yes, there are groups putting up these advocacies to ensure that government taps into the business of waste management. There have been advocacies from civil society organizations, advocates from private sector organizations, but then it's a gradual process. And globally, maybe there needs to be, better push to advocate for, waste management to be seen as just a business and not just a public health or humanitarian concern, because there's also the attitude towards waste management. Recently, we undertook a research, and we wanted to know how households perceive waste management, because beyond the policies, we need to simplify these issues for households, for you and I to understand the implication. And trust me, waste is seen as a dangerous, dirty thing that should be burned, but countries are making huge monies from proper waste management.
And what level of sensitization have we seen, from these agencies, especially like you mentioned right now on the public? Nobody really knows, except for a selected few who are already taking advantage of it and, converting it to art and all of that. What level of sensitization are we having right now?
So again, it's the mindset. If you see sensitization around waste management, what you see is that there's going to be flooding. It's seen as a public health issue, as a humanitarian issue, not really as a business issue. Oh, there's going to be flooding in this community, improper disposal of waste in drainages would cause flooding. But then there can also be an alternative narrative that drives it towards the business model. So that kind of sensitization, that kind of conscientization needs to be, implemented.
Okay. I'm looking at something in here. You talked earlier about imposing tariffs on all these things. Let's look at it holistically, the business aspect. What should a citizen do? Generate refuse? How should I go about it? Apart from just, if I want to make money from it, how should I go? How should I approach? And there are agencies I can approach if I want to begin to make money from the refuse I generate.
Yeah, of course, there needs to be. Yes, the drive is there to go into the business of waste management, but you can't just carry your cart and start collecting waste. Then there's a process of licensing with the designated agency. So the Abuja Environmental Protection Board and other related agencies are responsible for ensuring those licenses are procured and the right channels are followed. But again, government bureaucracy is one of the issues hampering proper enrollment or engagement in this line of businesses. So the paperwork, the delay, and all of those processes. Right. So there's more agencies can do. I put it on agencies like SMIDAN, beyond supporting the pipeline of getting grants or loans to do this kind of business. There's also needs to be that ease of doing business policy, where there's a one-stop shop for all of these agencies to work together to create that environment for it to happen.
All right, Evelyn, Ugbe, it was a pleasure speaking with you this morning. I must say thank you. You've really opened our eyes to a lot of opportunities in this waste management sector, and we hope that Nigerians and the government tap into this untapped sector to generate more wealth for us.